Military surplus firearms are prized historic collectibles, but with today's crazy prices, are some of them simply overvalued? Today we're diving into a topic that might ruffle a few feathers. My picks for the top 5 most overpriced Milsurp firearms on the collector market today. Let's be clear, I love these guns. I'm not saying they're bad rifles or pistols, and I'm certainly not trying to talk anyone out of collecting them. But when you consider how prices have exploded in such a short time, and factor in things like production numbers, ammunition cost, and available alternatives, some of these price tags just make no sense. So in this video, we're going to look at some of the most popular Milsurp guns that, in my opinion, are simply priced too darn high, even in today's inflated market. Let's get into it. We'll start things out with an American military classic, the 1903 Springfield. Now, I already know that someone's going to be mad that I included their beloved 1903 in this list, and look, I'll be the first to admit that these are really awesome rifles, and I like them a lot. But right now, here in 2025, the price of 1903s is absolutely ridiculous. As recent as 5 or 6 years ago, it wasn't uncommon to score a 1903 for like 600. I snagged my CMP example here for 650 in that time frame. But whether we're talking about a 1903 or a 1903A3, current market values are off the charts. From what I've witnessed, the current market trend is sadly about $1,000, and for that kind of money, you're getting dangerously close to the cost of an M1 Garand. Both the M1 and the 1903 are chambered in the same 30-06 cartridge, but with the M1 Garand comes its fantastic semi-automatic action, where the 1903 here is a pretty basic bolt-action Mauser design. There are numerous other Mausers out there you can acquire for way less than you would pay for a 1903. And it's not even like these rifles are super rare. When we're talking about Milsurps, I think people tend to forget the staggering numbers of these firearms that were made for war purposes. Between the 1903 and the A3, there were something like 3 million rifles produced. That's a lot of guns. And if you really just want to get behind a bolt-action 30-06, there's always modern rifles to consider, which will come in far cheaper than one of these old warbirds, and in the end, perform better. The 1903 is undoubtedly beautiful, historical, and iconic, but is it reasonably priced? In today's market, not so much. The bolt-action MAS 36 was France's primary infantry arm during the Second World War, and I actually really like this design. They have a well thought out, quick, and pretty smooth bolt action, really nice sights, and some of the best clips from the Second World War. But both the MAS 36 and the MAS 3651, like this example, are not inexpensive rifles. It wasn't always that way though. About a decade ago, these rifles were something like $300, but in today's market, we're seeing prices like $600, $700, $800, $900, complete craziness, and for a military bolt action that in reality isn't all that special. And like the 1903 with its M1 Garand counterpart, the MAS 36 has the semi-automatic MAS 4956, which at this point in time are coming in at about the same price, and in some cases even cheaper than the bolt-action MAS 36. The semi-auto French battle rifle 4956 provides a lot more bang for the buck, in my opinion. There were over 1 million of these rifles produced, and sure, the numbers aren't that high on the collector market here in the United States, but I would not consider them rare by any means, even World War II examples. And for someone like me that derives a lot of their Milsurp collecting enjoyment from actually shooting the firearms, the MAS 36 is pretty crippling due to that 7.5 French cartridge. The ammo for these rifles is scarce, and when you can find it, it's expensive, so it's really tough to put a lot of rounds through them and really enjoy the rifles in that way. From a shooter's perspective, there's a lot more Milsurp fish in the sea that will provide more bang for the buck, and for that, the MAS 36 is coming in at number 4 on our most overpriced Milsurp firearms list. Anybody that watches the channel knows I won't shut up about how much I love the USGI 1911. Both the 1911 and 1911A1 are fantastic handguns, Possibly the best pistol of both World War I and World War II, but the price on these things is getting out of hand. In the past, I've spoken in detail on 1911s from the CMP and their lottery system, and that's where my pistol came from. A couple years ago when I picked this one up, they were starting them out at something like $750 and going up to about $1,000. These days, however, they start at about $1,000 and go up to about $1,300. That's a lot of money for a firearm that had almost 3 million produced. And that's just the prices from the CMP. It gets even worse if we look on the secondary market. People are literally flipping CMP 1911s for $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, completely ridiculous numbers. And yeah, the USGI M1911 is a fantastic shooting handgun. They are really great, but there are numerous clones and modern reproductions out there that will have the same or better shooting performance for way less money than what you would pay for a Milsurp original. Without a doubt, these old warhorses are a cool piece of history, but not a budget-friendly one. I can hear the screams already. No, not the M9130 Mosin Nagant. That's supposed to be the everyman's budget rifle. But have you guys seen the prices on these things recently? Everyone knows that Russian M9130 Mosins were a dime a dozen about a decade ago, but in today's market that is no longer the case. The cheapest examples I've seen recently were like $450, and on average, they're more like $6. Despite those recent sharp increases in prices, the truth is, though, I still think the M9130 offers a compelling value. 7.62 by 54R is one of the last remaining cartridges that can be bought in quantity at very affordable prices, and so Mosin Nagants are still relatively cheap to shoot. And that's precisely why I ranked the M9130 towards the top of my Milsurp rifle value tier list. If you haven't seen that video, check it out for a full breakdown on which Milsurp firearms provide the most bang for the buck, literally. I will link it both above me right here and down in the description. Sadly, our M91 here is no longer cheap, despite there being a staggering around 19 million of these rifles produced. Even with today's really high prices, I can't bring myself to call the M9130 overpriced just yet, but I can't say the same for its older, longer relative, the old school M91. Just like the World War II 9130, the World War I M91 used to be a $100 bargain bin rifle. These days we're looking at prices like $600, $700, $800, all for a rifle that performs worse than its World War II counterpart. The M91 here is of course bigger and heavier, but the major downside to this rifle is the sights. They are a lot worse than the sights of the M9130, and that matters a lot if you like shooting your guns. There was something like 3 million of these rifles produced, so they're certainly out there in abundance. All those specific examples do demand a price premium. That doesn't change the fact that I think $8 for one of these rifles is pretty much insanity, and that's basically what price I've been seeing on the collector market. So coming in at number 2 on our top 5 list of the most overpriced Milsurp firearms is the M91 Mosin. Before we get to what I think is the single most overvalued Milsurp on today's market, let's cover a few honorable mentions. This is a post-war aluminum frame Walther P38, but legit World War II Walther P38s are demanding extremely high prices on the market today. Without a doubt, the World War II Walther P38 is a great firearm. They're accurate, reliable, and chambered in the affordable 9mm cartridge. But the prices on wartime examples have exploded in recent years, and the Walther P38 is now approaching price parity with the more collectible Luger. There were over 1 million of these produced in World War II, but today we're seeing prices at $1,200, $1,500, $1,700, completely crazy. I'm just glad there are post-war examples like this one and the Walther P1 on the market at far more reasonable prices. Every time I think about it, I want to kick myself for not picking up a Russian SVT-40 when I had the opportunity to do so for less than $1,000. The SVT-40 is one of the coolest guns from World War II. Chambered in 7.62 by 54R, semi-automatic, an awesome battle rifle, but holy crap, have they become expensive. What was a rifle that you could pick up for about $800 a decade ago is now $2,500, $3,500. SVT-40 prices are rising at an extremely fast rate with no end in sight. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford one. They're super cool, but in my opinion, at this day and time, overpriced. And don't even get me started on the prices people are asking for sporterized Milsurps. The process of cutting down and sporterizing a surplus firearm destroys its collector value, but for some reason people have decided that those firearms should still go for $350, $450, $550, almost as much and sometimes more than what you would pay for a military correct example. If you haven't noticed already, sporters piss me off, but really expensive sporters really piss me off. Prices are out of control, and our last honorable mention here is another that I missed the boat on, but I couldn't put this list together without at least a passing mention. That's the M1895 Nagant revolver, and they are arguably one of the worst service arms ever issued. Bad double action triggers, gimmicky gas seal action, and extremely expensive and hard to acquire ammunition make for a really bad shooting revolver. But that hasn't stopped Nagant revolvers going from a $100 gun that you could barely give away 2 decades ago to the $400, $500, $600 they're going for these days. I just don't get it, but I know I wish I had one. And finally, our number one top slot goes to the German Carbiner 98K. There's no denying the Car 98K's place in history. It's arguably World War II's most iconic bolt-action rifle. But man, are the prices crazy. In today's world, a typical shooter-grade Car 98 is going for like $1,000 to $1,200. And if we get into really nice collector-grade examples, literally the sky is the limit in terms of price. And there was like 14 million of these rifles produced by Nazi Germany. The simple fact that these rifles are World War II German has caused them to be worth a ton, and I don't really know that that makes complete sense. There was a point in time when you could save a buck by picking up a Russian capture or Yugoslavian refurb Car 98K, but these days, those rifles are expensive too. And the thing is, when we really get down to it, there's nothing about these German examples that make them any better than any other 98 action Mauser chambered in 8mm. And there are a ton of other cheaper options that fall into that category. Take for instance the Spanish M43 here. Standard short rifle, 98 Mauser action, 8mm chambering, and the sights are even really similar. But these Spanish Mausers come in at half the price or even less than their German counterpart and literally perform the same. That also goes for Czech VZ24s and various Yugoslavian Mausers. With the Car 98K, what you're really paying for is that history of German service. And what you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to you? I certainly think these rifles are overpriced here in 2025, but the truth is, no one cares about my opinion, and I doubt it'll stop the prices from going up in the future. It just is what it is, and the fact is, I guess they're not making any more of them. So there you have it, my rant on the top 5 most overpriced military surplus firearms on the market right now. I really do love Milsurp collecting, but perhaps I've become a little bit jaded by the insane price increases we've experienced over the past decade. I still suffer from sticker shock each and every time I go to a gun show. But what do you guys think? Did I leave something out, or did I include something that you think deserves the price tag? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up to help it out with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future military surplus firearms content, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.